Perkins' public bathrooms have always scared me in school. No matter how bad I had to go, I would not use the bathrooms. I just couldn't even force myself to use them. I mean, I've seen kids make fun of other kids just for going to the bathroom. Kids are horrible. I wanted to avoid that. At all costs, people simply scared me. They would embarrass you, humiliate you, hurt your feelings all over something so natural and stupid. So for most of my life, I avoided public restrooms. But one day, this was in 2002, we were driving through Dallas at the end of a road trip on our way home. It was me and two other friends, Jessica and Ruby. It was maybe 11 at night, and we were on the highway. They were starving, I was tired but had to pee bad, and we were still an hour from home. I had already been holding it for about 2 hours. I'm surprised I even made it that far anyway. We were passing one of the many dozens of random McDonald's in Dallas, and Jessica suggested we pulled over and take a break. Of course, I was extremely hesitant about using the bathroom there. I would almost rather pee in a bottle in the car than go into a public restroom for the first time in my life. My body went out on this one. I got out of the car and ran before I peed all over myself. It only took me a second to locate the bath BS. And, to my dismay, there were no family restrooms. I was already there, and seconds away from bursting, I threw myself through the swinging door. First, the smell hit me. Now let me tell you, just because it was a woman's restroom doesn't mean it wasn't disgusting. This thing smelled rancid, sort of like spoiled milk or a rotten diaper. It was bad. There were 3 stalls. I quickly checked for feet below the doors and saw that they were each empty. The coat post was clear. I opened the first one and nearly threw up. There was piss all over the seat, used toilet paper scattered on top and next to the toilet, and it looked as if the thing had been used daily but hadn't been flushed for weeks. I shut it and very reluctantly checked the second stall. That one was clear and clean, but somehow, for some reason, smelled 3 times as bad as the other one. Just in case, I checked the third stall. It was disgusting as well. So I stepped back and into the second and locked it. Well, it didn't really lock. The little bolt caught in the hole, but anyone that wanted inside that stall would just have to push. That creeped me out. But I figured I'd be in and out in a few seconds. So I covered the seat in toilet paper and sat down. Slowly, it was a relief to finally get all of that out of my system. 15 seconds of relief. Later, I was about to stand up when I heard the swinging door open. I froze. Someone had entered the room with me. Immediately, I stayed quiet, as possible, trying to pretend I wasn't there. Yeah, I'm a freak. I just really hated being in a vulnerable spot like that. I waited for the person to do their business, but I never heard the faucet. Come on. In fact, I never heard anyone open a stall. That's odd. I thought I had heard the footsteps after the door opened, but now there was no sound. If anyone was there, I'd definitely hear them breathing. At least I waited a few more minutes. Still, no other sound came, so I assumed I was safe. Maybe somebody had walked in and backed out. Maybe someone changed their minds about coming in. I didn't know, but to be sure, I lowered my head ever so slowly to check for the feet of someone else in the room with me. There was a man's face staring up at me. He smiled a toothless grin. He was lying down on the bathroom floor, looking up at me. He was dirty, with messy gray hair and a darker gray beard. I jumped off the seat, pulling my pants up while trying to cover up all my exposed skin with my arms. I screamed. I knew everyone in that building would have heard me. A second later, I heard laughing and the sound of footsteps running out of the back bathroom. Then maybe 10 seconds after that, I could hear Jessica and Ruby. "Are you okay?" "Sherry, what happened?" Jessica called, knocking on my stall door. I could barely even talk. I didn't know I was crying, but there were tears running down my face. I remembered I needed to pull my pants up, so I did. I stepped out to see their surprised and worried faces. Oh my God, you don't look good. Did something happen? Are you hurt? Jessica wanted answers. I shook my head some. Fucking pervert was staring up at me from under the stall. Jesus, are you okay? Where'd he go? Ruby sounded angry. I don't know. He just ran out. I replied, starting to calm down. We all walked back to the car, eyes peeled for that creepy man. The girls begged me to make a police report, but I couldn't help but feel, I don't know, weird. I guess I just wanted to get home, take a shower, get in my own bed. Besides, I only saw the man for maybe 5 seconds before he was up and gone. I climbed in the back seat of the car and sat back. Before we stopped, I was tired and ready to go to sleep, but now I felt wide awake and homesick, a little bit shaky. As we took off, I ended up glancing in back at the place, the big neon arch hurting my eyes. Then I saw him, I swear to God, it was the same man. He was standing exactly where we had been parked, smiling and waving goodbye at me. I got chills, travel in packs, girls keep each other safe. I can only be thankful that that creepy man wasn't more desperate. This is one of those things that I, and probably everyone else, easily assumed would never happen to me. Needless to say, I didn't expect it, and it has left me very twitchy and nervous. Since then, this happened in 2007, when I lived in Kansas. There was a local McDonald's in my town that I stopped at every morning, or at least tried to, one of those half-gas station, half-fast food joints. This one just happened to be at a very convenient corner on my way to work. So I'd often go in, grab a McMuffin and a can of Starbucks espresso to get my day going. This was a Tuesday, and I remember it all plain as day. Unfortunately, for some reason or another, the McDonald's side of the store was crowded that morning. There were at least 30 elderly folks there chatting up the place, like a bunch of teenagers. I almost walked out. The line was a bit long, and I only had 20 minutes to get to work. The drive itself was 10 minutes long, so I didn't have too long to be waiting, but I had never been late, and I was starved that morning, so I figured, what the hell? I stepped in line and waited, eyeballing the menu to see if there was anything new, or if there was something else I wanted, even though there was no way in hell I'd be changing up my routine. As I stood waiting, I felt something poke against my lower back before I could turn around. I heard someone whisper a bit too close in my ear, "Don't do anything." My heart froze. I felt paralyzed. The voice continued while I tried not to panic. "I'm just going to grab your wallet. Everything will be fine if you just don't move and don't say a word." I was silent, but honestly, I had never been more terrified. Maybe it was a kid with a butter knife trying to take advantage of me. Or maybe it was an ex-convict, desperate for money with a gun in his hand. I had no way to be sure. And I wasn't about to die on a Tuesday morning at a fucking McDonald's. Fuck. Is it? I heard him nearly shout behind me. He just barely managed to whisper. The man sounded pissed. That's when I realized I must have left my wallet in the car. Often, I would put my wallet in the passenger seat or in the cup holder, as it would make my back hurt or my bottom uncomfortable. So, where the fuck is it? He asked very hurriedly. It's in my car. I said nervously. Well, looks like we were going for a little ride then. He seemed relieved. Fuck. I thought he was happy. We'd be going in my car, away from people, away from prying eyes. He could make me go anywhere he wanted me to. God, I was so scared my heart was racing. I wanted to take off running and scream that someone was mugging me. I was surrounded by so many people. But I felt more afraid than I've ever been in my life. And for the first time in my life, I was actually afraid I was going to die. I started thinking quickly. I had to figure something out. I had to get myself out of this fucking mess. If I turned around or made any sudden movements, surely he'd end the weapon that he had shoved into my spine. If I spoke too loud, I'd be dead before anyone could do anything. So I was stuck life endangered in the breakfast line at a McDonald's. How the hell had my life turned out that way anyway? There was one thing I could do that didn't require me risking the existence of an actual weapon behind me. The guy didn't sound old, but he didn't sound young either. I thought I could talk my way out of this. I swallowed hard and gathered my courage. "I don't think you want that wallet," I whispered back to him. My head turned toward my side as far as I could get away with. "Shut up, start walking." He seemed to be ignoring me. "I don't think $10 is worth 15 years. In prison, maximum security prison too." He must have heard me that time, because he seemed to stand still. He didn't urge me to keep walking. I tried to look even further behind me to see his face, but I couldn't. I did manage to see a woman with 3 unwieldy preteen boys come in. I continued robbery with a firearm is a first-degree felony. And I honest. Lee, don't think you'd be fast enough to shoot or stab me before I ran through those doors. What the fuck? Was I thinking my heart felt like I was going to explode? Every word I whispered nearly came out stuttered, but somehow I found the power to make them sound confident I was no lawyer. But I remembered a bit of the basic stuff from a legal studies course in high school, the kind of shit they nail into your head and can't forget. Thank God for that. This time, shut the fuck up. I'm sure you've got more money than that. I see the coat you're wearing. I saw the car you got out of. Well, if there's not more than 10, he sort of snickered. Let's just hope there's more than 10. Fuck. It hadn't worked, and now I was sure he was threatening to kill me if I didn't have the money. And the fucked up part. I really only had $10 in my wallet. I had recently paid a few bills and was ready to glide through the rest of the week with food from home. I've actually done it a few times before. Come on, keep moving. He shoved the weapon in my back hard. It was cold and painful. I didn't want to move, but I felt I had no choice. "Jimmy!" I heard a female voice behind us shout. Then there was a hard smack, as if something fell to the floor. A lot of movement behind me made me turn. The man was no longer looking. I turned around and saw it. One of the boys that had come in was wrestling around with his brother when he was shoved into my mugger. The mugger himself, who was far more thin and frail than he had sounded, and wearing a thick black hoodie, was on his ass, in the floor, staring at something that lay on the ground. I looked toward it. A jet black pistol. It wouldn't have been noticeable blending in with that damn hoodie he wore in an instant. I made a break for it, and so did he. Sadly, he was closer and grabbed the gun. I expected the worst to happen, but it didn't. He grabbed the gun, shoved it in his pocket, and ran full speed out of the place. When I was sure he was out of the building, I looked around and saw that everyone had seen it too. They had seen the man drop the gun immediately. I got out my phone and called the police. I made a statement, told them everything. They talked to several other folks as well. In the end, though nobody got a good enough look at his face. And last I heard, he was never caught. I like to hope that he ended up trying, failing again, and was arrested for a different crime, because it is honestly a bit hard to sleep at night knowing that there are terrible people out there, and then there are even worse people, too, who are still at large. Poco, this short but terrifying experience, took place around late September of 2014. Me and some friends were making a night of it at my place, and at around 1 o'clock in the morning, we all had the munchies. We decided to hop in my van and drive over to the McDonald's that was about 2 miles down the road. It had been raining that night just before we left, so the empty streets had that creepy wet glimmer from the street lamps. It was already an eerie scene. The van's air conditioner hadn't worked for months either, so I usually drove with the windows down. We pulled up to the drive-thru. I noticed that there was no one in the parking lot and not a single car in the drive-thru. That was fine by me. It just meant we'd get our food more quickly. It is important to note, though, that At this particular McDonald's, there were numerous trees on the right, and the restaurant itself to the left. As we pulled through, it was almost a forest, but it was too thin to really be that. And just on the other side of it, the island of trees led to a pharmacy. We pulled up in front of the menu and waited to be greeted, and waited and waited. Eventually, I said hello, trying to get someone's attention, but no one answered. The guys were telling me to just pull forward and see if they'd meet me at the window. One of them said that despite the 24-hour sign, they might be closed for some repairs or something. I doubted that. If anything, this whole situation was kind of suspicious. Just when I decided to go ahead and pull forward to the window, one of my friends said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, stop!" I put my foot back on the brake and turned toward him. "Did you hear that? There's something growling over there." I thought he was joking until I turned toward where he was looking. I saw glowing yellow eyes next to a tree about 5 yards away from the van. I could just barely make out a low, steady growl. I assumed it was just a dog, so I rolled up the windows on that side so it didn't try to climb in or jump at us. I continued to pull forward when suddenly the thing that had been behind the tree ran out of the darkness and beside the van. I only got a brief look at it, but I was entirely sure that this was no dog. It was more the size of a grown mew, but thin and bony. Its skin was green and brown, with random hairs scattered all over it. I kept my foot on the brake and rolled up the rest of the windows right away. I didn't want to keep moving just in case my mind was playing tricks on me, and this was some kid playing a joke. We all waited, spooked out of our minds. I kept looking out of the windows to try to find it. The thing must have been just below us, where we weren't able to see. Then someone in the back screamed. I looked toward them and saw at the back window, just above the edge of the metal, were a set of eyes and horns, small but pointed horns. The thing was just staring in at us, and at that moment we all screamed and jumped away from the creature. Then, with a loud screeching noise, the creature took off back into the small patch of trees. I didn't hesitate. I drove back home. It wasn't worth a Big Mac staying next to those damned woods with that weird thing out there. I have no idea what we all saw that night, and we haven't seen anything like it since. Its eyes looked reptilian, with that sort of black slit in the middle. I honestly have never seen an animal in real life or on TV that looked anything like it, and I hope I never see it again. The next time you're out on the town and just can't wait to get home to have your next meal, think twice about stopping anywhere, even McDonald's. You are never as safe as you want to be. All it takes is one person, one spirit, one creature to decide that you will be their next victim, and you will never see it coming. Good night. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.